players with the best and worst matchups in Week 14. Let's get it started. Joe Burrow should light up the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to linger here long because you're obviously starting Joe Burrow, but that matchup is pretty good. Next up, Sam Darnold. Darnold gets to go up against the Atlanta Falcons, who definitely don't scare you. They've allowed the 7th most points in the last 5 games. Sam's actually been pretty good himself. He's been a top 5 quarterback in the last 5 weeks. Not too shabby. Lower on the list, you have Russell Wilson, who looks pretty good. He's going up against the Browns, who've allowed the most points in the last 5 games. And Will Levis gets to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are not good. Will Levis is scary, but the competition isn't. He should be pretty solid. Quarterbacks with terrible matchups in Week 14, Geno Smith. Geno's going up against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have been surprisingly good against the quarterback. Geno's been meh recently. You could probably find a better option out there. It's also a divisional matchup. Sometimes those are pretty low. Matthew Stafford also has a tough matchup against the Buffalo Bills. They've allowed the 3rd fewest points to the quarterback position in the last 5 weeks. And honestly, they've been pretty good on the year too. And if you were desperate enough to start Kirk Cousins, I would second guess that. Going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who actually do scare me. The Vikings are a good defense, and Kirk Cousins is not looking good. He threw a couple bad picks. He threw 4, but a couple of them were just ugly, like lollipop. I mean, it just clearly wasn't getting there. I'm sure there's a better option than old Kirky boy. Wide receivers with the best matchups in Week 14. Justin Jefferson. Yes, I know. You were already starting Justin Jefferson. That's not the point of this. Justin Jefferson gets to go up against the Atlanta Falcons, who allow the 3rd most points to the wide receiver position. The reason I bring up Justin Jefferson's name, because some of y'all are worried. He's been wide receiver 31 in the last 3 weeks, wide receiver 20 in the last 5 weeks. I'm personally not concerned, but I know some of y'all are. I think he finishes in the top 5 this week. I ain't really worried about it. Calvin Ridley has a great matchup against the Jaguars. George Pickens versus the Browns. The Browns have allowed the 4th most points in the last 5 weeks to the wide receiver position. Pickens should be pretty good in this one. Wide receivers with the worst matchup in Week 14. DJ Moore and the Chicago Bears. Going up against the 49ers, the Niners allow the 2nd fewest points to the wide receiver position in the last 5 weeks. Yes, I know the Niners are banged up, but that defense is still pretty solid. You can still play DJ Moore. I'm just looking at him more as a low-end wide receiver 2 instead of a high-end wide receiver 2 with upside. And of course, this is also a bad matchup for Keenan Allen and Roma Doomsday. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf has a bad matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, allowing the 3rd fewest points to the wide receiver. DK Metcalf can always get it done in the end zone because he's a big boy, but it's just not a good matchup in general. Same thing with JSN. JSN's actually been pretty impressive on the year and recently. Wide receiver 5 in the last 5 weeks, wide receiver 8 on the year. I was not expecting that from JSN. Very surprising. Again, of course you can play these guys, but the matchup isn't as good, so I wouldn't expect as much upside. For everybody desperate like me, Thielen has a bad matchup against the Eagles. Running backs with the best matchup in Week 14, Alvin Kamara. Going up against the New York Giants, they're going to run all over them. Giants don't stand a chance, but starting Alvin Kamara is a no-brainer, keeping it moving. You can also start the guy on the other side of the ball too, Tyrone Tracy Jr. Going up against the Saints. The Saints have allowed the 4th most points in the last 5 weeks to the running back position. I'd say that's pretty good. I know Tracy's been kind of rough in the last 5 weeks. I think he bounces back. Tony Pollard going up against that terrible Jacksonville Jaguars team should be able to run all over him. Jags allow the 5th most points to the running back position in the last 5 weeks. Rico Dowdle should have a good game against the Bengals. And if you just got Isaac Garindo off the waiver wire, you should go ahead and fire him up. He goes against the Chicago Bears. The Bears have allowed the 7th most points to the running back position in the last 5 weeks when you adjust for schedule. And honestly, I'm in this spot. I'm definitely playing him. What are we talking about here? Running backs with the worst matchups in Week 14. Kenneth Walker III. Going up against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have allowed the 4th fewest points to the running back position in the last 5 weeks. Plus, Kenneth Walker's banged up. Right now, he's questionable with an ankle and a calf injury. He was limited in practice on Wednesday. I would temper your expectations. It's also a bad matchup for Chuba Hubbard versus the Eagles and Gus Edwards versus the Chiefs. Tight ends with the best matchups in Week 14. The Dallas Cowboys. If Jake Ferguson plays, it's him. If he doesn't play, Luke Schoonmaker. They go against the Cincinnati Bengals, who allow the third most points against the tight end position in the last 5 weeks. Whoever the starting tight end is, I think you can play him. Other tight ends I like, Kate Ottens for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Raiders, and Will Disney facing the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs allow the 4th most points to the tight end position in the last 5 weeks. I know Will Disley goosed you, so if you don't want to play him, I get it. But it's a good matchup, and Ladd McConkey's banged up. Do I think he sits? No, I don't think so. But regardless, they're going to need to spread it around. I think Will Disley's going to be a benefactor of that. So, who did I miss? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell down below. Good luck in your matchup this week. Peace.